Hey, how goes it, guys? Betray You speaking, and I'm gonna bring you a little walkthrough of the shipbuilding aspect on Worlds Adrift, because I feel like there's not a whole lot to explain to you, so hopefully this helps a little bit. So, first thing you definitely need is your assembly station and your shipyard. You need those things to even begin assembling a ship. So you want to get those down as soon as possible. Uh, be careful about your assembly station and try not to put it on a hill, because anything you build on that assembly station is loose. It doesn't like float there until you pick it up. It will fall and roll down the hill, and then you won't be able to pick it up. Because once it rolls out of that little bubble, it's no longer usable to you unless you put another shipyard down there. But just make sure you don't have it on the hill. So try to find like the flattest area. But the assembly station is where you assemble everything, all the different components, panels, all the essential things like the steering wheel and your gauges and decorations and stuff like that. That's where all that comes from. And then your shipyard, you'll find these docks like all over the place. Literally anywhere you go, you'll see at least 2 or 3 of them. But that's where you first start off building a ship, and then that's where you can dock your ship later on. Like if you find another docking station, you want to repair some things or change some up, you can dock at any shipyard that's not taken. Now it comes preloaded with a couple simple designs. Dinghy. The second one was a sky ship. This one's a tower. There's a spear, and then the behemoth is like humongous. It takes up the whole entire grid. But these are all default. They come pre-made, so you don't really have to mess with the design too much. But you can mess with the design if you want to. I'm going to show you in a little bit what all those little dots and squares actually do. Here's the behemoth. This thing is massive. Alright, so if you want to actually make a custom ship, you just select the schematic and then edit. And then the blocks are like your levels. You can raise or lower them. And then the red blocks, you take, they move horizontally and make your ship either longer or shorter. So those blocks is how you manipulate the actual size of the ship. And then the circles are basically each individual joint. You can move it up or down. You can pull it in, bring it outward. It's all on a three-dimensional axis, X, Y, Z. And then you got those little pink lines control like the wires in between the 2 dots, so that you can bend those wires either outward or to go in or just straight, however you want it. So it's actually very, like, you can design a completely custom ship however you want it, however you like it. Now remember that it has to be somewhat viable to fly. Alright, so I'm going to speed this up the next couple minutes or so. I'm just customizing my ship, fully custom ship here. I will be speeding up a lot of these things just because it is a full build from scratch, pretty much, just to let you see how the whole process goes and not have a 3-hour long video. So some of it will be sped up, but I'll try my best to explain everything as it goes. Okay, and you see once I save it, the amount of resources needed to build that ship has changed dramatically because of the different stories and stuff that I've made. So depending on how big your ship is or how small your ship is, it's going to take a different amount of resources. So be wary of that. Don't build an extremely large ship if you don't have the resources necessary to actually start the frame. Because starting the frame is one thing, and then building the actual panels and the walls and all that stuff is another. Once you actually get the wireframe down, you can actually see in the real world of the video game how it looks and how it's gonna look once you're done. So once you get the components, just drop it into its respective slots and go ahead and build. We're gonna do a little time lapse here because it does take a little bit. This one says it takes 3 minutes and 43 seconds to build, so we're gonna speed it up a little bit. And we're back. Okay, and another thing I want to say before we go any further is once a ship is docked in one of those docking areas, you'll see that a dome is created, and while you're inside that dome, you can attach to any part of that dome. So it makes building your ship, like adding all the different parts, a lot easier than it would be just trying to grapple the actual ship itself and trying to maneuver that way. But you'll see every wall is actually grappable. Grappable, blah, blah. This thing I'm placing right now is a respawner that is essential. That it should be the first thing you put down no matter what, because there's gonna be times where you kill yourself. It just happens. Sometimes the component flies off or something and it hits you and you die instantly. So you want to be able to get back to your ship immediately to get all your stuff. All you do is you place it and then you hold E on it, and then it sets that spawn point towards you so you can reuse it. Alright, so the next thing you're gonna need is your steering wheel. You can't go anywhere without that, right? So you're gonna want to get one of those bad boys on anywhere on your ship, preferably somewhere that you can see a lot of your surroundings, not like in a room or something, because you need to be able to see around you directly around the steering wheel itself, because your range ain't so much on that steering wheel. By the way, if you don't know yet, and I don't think I said it before, the way I'm moving these things is with number 3 lift tool, I think it's called, part of your gauntlet. That's how you move everything while you're inside of a dock. You have to be inside the bubble, and it has to be inside the bubble, or else you can't access it. And the next thing you absolutely need is your sky cores. Those are what actually makes the ship fly. Now you'll see it says that each core holds 1,000 kilograms, and everything that you put on the ship weighs, absolutely everything, and depending on how you make it, changes its weight. So pay attention to that. But I haven't ran into any issues yet. The cores are super easy to make, so you just make enough cores, and if you don't have enough, you'll know, because you just won't be able to fly, or it's going to take a lot to actually bring it up. So just pay attention to that, and if you have any issues, just put another core somewhere, because they're super simple to make. So I'm going to fast forward this. I'm going to put, like, I think I ended up putting 6 cores in there. So it's a pretty big ship, but that should be plenty for weight wise. Okay, so once you got those built, the next thing is the fuel tank. Now you won't start with a fuel tank, you have to actually find it through blueprints or whatever. But if you do have engines, you need a fuel tank for them to run. So in order to actually run a setup with wings and an engine to propel yourself without like a sail or anything, you need these gas tanks. Now I'm pretty sure they come in different sizes, but one of the starter ones that you can find are these, which is the smallest one I believe you can get. But if you add like 3 or 4 of them like I'm about to do, you should be fine. There's enough fuel resources around to keep you afloat. Just watch, just be careful. Always have that in the back of your head. Remember the refuel, because if you run out of fuel while you're in the middle of nowhere, at least definitely have a sail as a backup. Always have a sail on your ship, no matter what, because if you do run out like that and you're in the middle of nowhere, you're gonna be thankful that you have that. I'm not sure yet how much one holds, I'm gonna do some tests and I'll find out for you guys. They hold quite a bit. I remember putting in well over 200, I think, fuel. So one thing to be said about the fuel tanks is they share the fuel capacity. So if you have multiple fuel tanks, you can only, like, you just need to fill up one and it's gonna fill up everything. So adding one increases the size of the cap, but you don't have to fuel each individual tank, which is nice. So like you can have a bunch of tanks in the basement or whatever, the bottom floor, and then have like one tank up top with all your fuel and just keep refilling that one. They all share a pool, so you have to refill each individual one. Alright, so I'm about to start the actual building, like putting all the panels and stuff on the bottom floors at least. This is all going to be sped up, so you can watch it if you want, or just skip around. I'm going to come back once I'm done with these panels though. So see you in a little bit. Right, so you have the panels, and then you have decks, which is the floors. And the decks can only go in pre-made floor slots. They can only go in those. Same with panels. Panels can only go in panel slots, which is usually on the sides. They're basically the walls. You can't put, they're not interchangeable, which sucks because I would really love like a snap-on feature for the panels, but there isn't, so you just kind of gotta go with the flow. Don't be discouraged if your ship looks like crap, because most do. It's really hard to maneuver these things, especially when you're grappling, trying to place like on the sides and stuff. It's really tough, so just do your best and just know that your ship looks pretty no matter what. Alright, no matter what. Another thing that's worth noting is I found that placing your panels on the outside of the ship makes it form to the ship a little better. Like you'll see it bend and stuff. And I find that putting it on the outside makes it a little bit better looking. It fits it better than trying to put it on the inside. That's just me. Maybe you like it on the inside better, but I ended up switching like the whole bottom row to the outside because I found I've switched one around. I was like, okay, well I have to do the rest because it just looks better. But it just fits the ship better that way. I don't know. It might be just me, but. Alright, and we are back. Time to add some wings. Now, like I said before, I very highly recommend that you put a sail on your ship somewhere, no matter what. Um, Maybe 2 or 3, whatever you want, but definitely have at least one, because like engines are nice, but if you run out of fuel, you kind of, screwed. So, uh, always have a scapegoat, and that's the sails. But so these wings, some of them are really hard to determine which way they go. But you'll know if your ship starts flying the wrong direction that you're trying to tell it to go. But the main thing for the wings to look out for is your pitch speed. That's how fast your ship will turn and tilt and stuff like that. So that's one thing that you have to look out for whenever you're picking wings. And the other thing, obviously, is like health. I think that's the only thing. So I'm gonna place a couple. I think I end up putting like 4 on this one. So that should be plenty enough tilt speed. Make sure you're gonna have to rotate one of them, depending on what side it is, because they're both gonna be facing the same way. So when you put on the other side of the ship, it's gonna be backwards. So keep an eye out for that. And like I said, it's hard to tell sometimes which way is which, but you'll know whenever you start flying your ship. Alright, lovely, lovely. You got 4 wings on it. Now time to add some engines. You don't start off with these either. You have to find them via schematics or through knowledge. But same thing with everything else. Put the components in and start her up. And like I said before, you have to have a fuel tank in order to get these things to run. They have to have some sort of fuel source, or else they aren't going to start. Main thing to look out for in engine stats is obviously the power, and fuel efficiency is key. Like fuel efficiency, you especially battling like the wind wall, when you're trying to get through the wind wall, it's extremely crucial that you have either enough spare fuel or you have really good fuel efficiency, because holy shit does it get intense. I was going through one with a really nice ship. I had really good fuel efficiency and I still ran out of fuel and I lost my ship. So that's key. So make sure you look out for those 2 things, power and fuel efficiency. Spin up and overheat limit, I don't know if it's too much of an issue. Maybe for like PvP, if you're into that, you might want a faster spin up so you can get away or turn or get into another position quicker than the other person. Maybe that's when that comes in handy. But so far I haven't really found an issue with those 2 being lower than most. Alright, and it's time to add in some artillery. Again, you don't start off with these, obviously. You have to find these with schematics, or you can unlock them. I think they're one of the first things you can unlock in the knowledge tree. So if you want that, then it's pretty easy to get. The thing stat-wise to look out for these is power, again, obviously, and maybe base health and overheat. But I don't know. I've never really overheated my cannons. But one crucial thing that I'm gonna say, just before I forget, be careful about placement on your ship. If you are too close to something, whenever you look down or something like that, you will blow your ship and yourself off of the ship. I've done it a few times now, so be very careful of that. You're gonna want to waste a few rounds just to test before you leave the docking station, because you don't want to be doing that out in the open and blow yourself off and you lose all your stuff. Be a sad day. So just fire a few rounds off. They're pretty easy to make if you have the schematic for them. They take cannon shells. It's in ammunition. I'm gonna build some in a little bit so you can see. But yeah, so definitely do that before you leave the docking station if you can. So far the cannons that I've had only have like a 180-degree radius to them. They can't go for a full circle, so it might take a few cannons to get your whole perimeter of your ship. So be wary of that location wise. So this is me test firing this front cannon because of where it's located. I'm extremely scared by this one because when I shoot, you can actually see the window pop out and pop in the frame. So I'm probably gonna end up blowing myself up with this one, so I might move it, but for now it looks pretty badass. So hopefully it doesn't destroy me later on. So now that you have your ship built, we're gonna go over how to work your helm to get your ship flying. So if you move your mouse around, you'll control the tilt of your ship, which way it's starting to tilt. That's good for whenever you're fighting like the wind wall. A and D turns your ship, and if you hold right click and move your mouse around, you can look without actually tilting your ship. So that's a useful tool to kind of scout around. Shift makes your ship go up, and control makes it go down. So once you get your ship actually in the sky here, you'll notice this little lever on the right. That's your speed, your throttle, and that is controlled by W and S. If that handle is in the middle in that brown spot, it will eventually center itself until it has no throttle. So if you want any throttle at all, make sure it's outside of that little box. But there's 3 notches on this one anyway, but there is other helms out there. I don't know if they're better, if they have more notches or not. I wouldn't imagine, honestly, but for this one there's 3, so 3 different gears basically. And one thing I've learned through traveling is you do not want to be off of a seat like your helm or a cannon while your ship is in full motion, like full speed. You don't want to be off of a seat, because whenever you get in range of a island, it'll load in all the assets, creating a huge lag, basically a dead freeze for a couple seconds. And whenever you come to, you're usually a couple inches or whatever away from your boat. So if your boat's going full speed, those inches turn into like feet. So you can fly off of your boat. I've done it plenty times, lost the boat, or at least lost my gear. Usually I have a spawner on the ship, so I can just spawn back on the ship, but losing your gear kind of sucks too. So you can be off your boat, but just not full speed. I've found, like, even the second notch is fine. Just make sure you have a safety grapple. Always, like all the time, always have a grapple on something. That goes for anything, really, not just being on a boat. Always have a grapple on something, especially if you're like next to a cliff or something. You don't want to fall off and then die because you can't grapple. You're too far away or something when you realize. So that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope it helped. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like and a comment and subscribe. All that good stuff. Check out the links down below in the description, or just check out theauthenticgamer.com. And we'll see you next time.